well-dressed attendees. They're giving money to the church, not like those miscreant, poor, stinky people in the back pews. They're not like them. He takes their pride, plays with their pride. Likewise, I think that there are people who are either spiritually captured or they've just become so seeking of the approval of man, that they want to see white supremacist racism everywhere. Now, I am very blunt when I talk about white supremacist racism. I call people who have been abused with that particular view basement-dwelling, thumb-sucking morons. Judgmental language. Discerning language. And I've tried instead to say captives. Spiritual captives. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your enemies. I've tried to modify my thinking because I don't want a wedge between me and God. The New York City, there was an arrest. New York Post has this. And it was an arrest of someone who was involved in sex trafficking girls, kids, boys and girls, and conning them into taking pictures and then threatening them and then using them in pornography. And when he did this and they went and they arrested this guy, obviously gang connected, just looking at the tattoos, they found that he was also part of a satanic cult. No, and that's not kind of a satanic cult. They say, hey, we are a satanic cult. And in this arrest, they found out something else, though, that this cult is spread around the country. And in spreading around the country, of course, it's infecting the minds of other people, that it has very specific goals. Some of them are killings, etc. Oh, did I just eccentric killings? Yeah, because at the heart of this is, hey, they caught the guy. It's fantastic. He's going to go to prison. Even better. They've revealed the existence of a satanic cult. Can you imagine? They actually spoke spiritual truth. Satanic cults exist. But when you look at the charging papers for the suspect, we are supposed to call him a suspect, he's identified as white. Although he's very clearly Hispanic. And I would say dark-skinned Hispanic. Oh, I didn't say his name, did I? Not gonna. People like this want their names set. They want the infamy. Not gonna play. This technique of taking people who are not white and for purposes of demography, making them white is endemic. I can show you 100 examples of where people who are clearly not white are being labeled as white to increase the likelihood that the FBI can make good on its promise that there is an army of white supremacists ready to seize the nation. There are white supremacists, and there are black supremacists, and there are Asian supremacists, and there are Chinese supremacists, and it's a sin issue to take that human pride, that good. Hey, let's not hate thy neighbor. Let's love thy neighbor. Let's love thy neighbor as thyself. The second of the great commandments. The Lord Jesus was asked, what are the greatest commandments? Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor like yourself. On these, all the other commandments hang. To take that and twist it into, let's invent white supremacy where none exists, up to the point where the DOJ was actually incentivizing agents to find white supremacists. And sometimes that involved inventing them so that we could have the narrative that must be had. There's a group at the DOJ which has a great sounding title, the Community Relations Service. It's a great sounding title. And I bet that there are lawyers in that division of the DOJ who have a burden on their heart to do the right thing. Revolver.news looked into this group and their activities and came away with a different analysis. What they contend to do is to solve racial issues. What they contend to do is to come into circumstances where there's been a hate crime and to try to de-escalate. But it appears that they also produce for white families statements that absolve killers, abusers, if they're of a different race. And Revolver.news is careful to point out, yes, we are to forgive 7 times, 77 times. Yes, we are to do that sincerely. If we can't do it sincerely, we're no better than the hypocrites that Jesus abhorred. He abhorred, but didn't abhor them, abhorred the hypocrisy. For God is love. Abhorred the act of hypocrisy. So this network, the very crime after which the Community Relations Service is named, the death of Matthew Shepard, should raise questions about the group's honesty. This is part of a video where staff describes their mission.
The Community Relations Service, also known as CRS, is an agency within the Department of Justice. CRS was authorized under the 1964 Civil Rights Act and also the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act in 2009. CRS provides 4 services: facilitation, mediation, consultation, and training. We don't prosecute. We don't have any law enforcement authority. Also, we're neutral. We're third-party mediators. Our services are free. And so we really are able to help communities when there is conflict and tension.
We address conflict and crisis on the basis of race, national origin and color, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, disabilities, and religion. CRS has 10 regional offices across the country and 4 field offices and a headquarters office in Washington, D.C. Any community that is experiencing a conflict or crisis, CRS can provide services there.
We bring a set of expertise, a set of skills, a set of connections, and a brand name based on our work since the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the trust of communities for us to be able to do this work effectively and impartially.
We bring people together who have differences and they're looking for a way to get to yes.
Conflict is natural. It's going to occur. And if conflict is managed, it's probably getting worked out most of the time. If it's unmanaged, people go to a dark place.
Being able to implement the collective wisdom of the stakeholders and being receptive to the tools that they bring and the insights that they bring is very important.
It's very, very good sounding. Very good sounding. Who was Matthew Shepard? Matthew Shepard, we're told, was beaten to death because he was a same-sex attracted man in a conservative state. Matthew Shepard was actually murdered because of a drug deal. It was a liberal journalist who uncovered this fact, who sought to do more work on the Matthew Shepard story, who sought to expose it, and in studying it came out and found, oh my goodness, this was not a hate crime. This was a drug dealing crime. Does it make it less tragic? How do you have a community relations service that is founded on a lie? The people there, do they believe this lie? Do they believe that giving white people a script to read is a way towards actual reconciliation? We have to do this. We have been given the task of being ambassadors for Jesus. That is a huge task. And I'm sure that there are people in the CRS who have a burden to help, but are they really helping? And did this service held at Victory Atlanta Church help with the role we Christians have of being ambassadors of reconciliation in Christ? We only have time for a short clip. I encourage you to find the entire service to examine.
I'm going to ask this young man, I need a young black man. Would you come up here on the stage? There's a reason I want a young black man up here, because he represents some things that I'm going to talk to you about in just a moment. And so, why don't you take a seat right there? And if you wouldn't mind just taking your shoes off and your socks too, thank you. And then I'm going to wash your feet. Now, let me say something before I wash his feet, because this is important. this young man doesn't just represent Black America. This young man represents all minorities for this moment right here. What most people don't realize about my race is my race has a hard time getting what's wrong in America. We have a challenge.